Me, as usual, is a GS. You'll be reading a statement after which you'll be taking questions, yes?
Yes. Good morning, everyone, again. The statement reads as follows. The People's Progressive Party supports the view that press censorship is alive and well in Guyana. The facts attest to this reality. Increasingly, persons of various political hues and shades are voicing their concerns and reservations over the role and content of the state-controlled Chronicle newspaper. Press censorship is being driven from the office of the Prime Minister in particular and the Ministry of the Presidency in general, the vehement denials notwithstanding. Examples abound across the board. The People's Progressive Party is the only political party that hosts a weekly press conference at which one or two press statements are read and subjected to questioning by journalists present. The statements are promptly sent electronically to all media houses. Of the statement, questions are encouraged at party press conferences. Quite often, it is of the statement responses to questions posed by journalists that are carried in certain sections of the media and not the contents of the official press statement. Apart from press statements read at press conferences, press releases are issued in between press conferences. These statements and/or releases are usually either edited or never published by the Guyana Chronicle, Kaiecho News, or the Starbuck News. This is the truth which none of the editors of these newspapers can deny, and a fact which they don't seem to have the courage to explain, save for political censorship. What censorship basically does is to deny Guyanese readers another view apart from the official view, which appears to take preeminence over the non-official view, including those of the PPP. When the PPP was in office, press censorship was virtually non-existent, save for a few occurrences which cannot be described as press censorship. Quote, censorship is the suppression of speech, public communication, or other information which may be considered objectionable, harmful, inaccurate, politically incorrect, or inconvenient as determined by government media outlets, media outlets, authorities, or other groups or institutions, end of quote. The PPP takes this opportunity to remind editors of all media outlets of the Declaration of Chapultepec, which reads, among inter alia, quote, the Declaration not only commits to permanently seeking the truth, demanding freedom and tolerance, but also commits to respect standards and ethical criteria in communication, end of quote. Both the definition of press censorship and the Chapultepec Declaration remains relevant and applicable to the current situation in Guyana with respect to the media in general and the state media in particular. The sitting Minister of Information must remember the words he wrote in 1992 in an article entitled, quote, Party paramountcy, a pernicious doctrine still hanging over the state media, end of quote. In that article he wrote, quote, the pernicious Burnhamite doctrine of party paramountcy still hangs like a sword of Damocles over the state media, end of quote. From all indications, we seem to be returning to that Burnham era, where press censorship is concerned, and where fear is the weapon being used to pursue that agenda beyond the state media. Guyanese must fight this disgusting and contagious blight before we all come to realize too late is the cry. End of quote. Thank you.
There you had the statement. Question? Adam?
All right. So, by press censorship, you mean, and I think you said it, that PPP releases aren't published in their entirety.
No, not in their entirety at all.
PPP releases aren't published at all.
Some PPP releases, not all. Some PPP releases, or I should say many. Let me rephrase that. Many PPP releases are not published at all.
So how does that constitute press censorship, sir?
Because
Publication of a release?
Because it is denying the public another view on an issue, which means suppressing the view expressed by the PPP on one issue or another, wherein the public is entitled to know that view.
But there are other sections of the media that will carry the release, so the release eventually gets out. So why do you consider the behavior of some sections of the media as being tantamount to suppressing the PPP?
Well, let me put it this way. As you know, as many people in the country and in the reading community would know, each media house, whether it's a print media, electronic media, television or radio, they have their listeners and their readers. There are many people who would buy a Kaicho News, but they wouldn't buy another newspaper, whether for economic reasons or choice of what the newspaper prints. The same goes for people who would buy a Starbuck News, but they would never buy another newspaper because they say they like the Starbuck News. The same thing with the Chronicle. So it doesn't mean to say that if the Kaicho News publishes the release or the information disseminated by the PPP, that the person who is attached or who is loyal to another newspaper would see it. So that is why it should be given widespread coverage. I'm not only talking about PPP press statements, I'm talking about releases from anybody in general. Once it doesn't have liable and it doesn't, put the newspaper in problems, well, that's how I explain. They have some people who turn on to a particular TV station, but they wouldn't listen to other TV stations. What happened to those who are tuned in to a TV station that refuses to publish it? And these same people would not turn on to another TV station. It means they denied the information.
Well, non-publication isn't necessarily press censorship. For example, newspaper so on has a certain space. And depending on what the editors consider important, that's what they're going to put in that space. So if they don't put your release, you insist that that's media censorship, sir?
Well, I worked for years with Mrs. Janet Jagan, who was the editor of the Marine newspaper. And you know her quite well. Because you remember there was a meeting at David Ikeri's house some years ago on a particular matter, which you were present. Yeah. Good.
You have good memory?
Very good. Now, what I'm saying is that she has always advised us, even though some of us didn't work full time at the Mirror, but we sat in at meetings, that there are two arguments that editors would use not to publish a story: space and libel. And then the other technique they would use is to bury it, meaning put it on page 48 or page 36. So that by the time you finish reading all the stories in the newspaper, including the classified ads and the sports page, by the time you get to that, you're tired. So we know those techniques that are used by media houses, the one about space and so forth. The People's Progressive Party is a major contender in the political arena in Guyana. It's not a party of membership that can fit in what one of these motor cars name, these new motor cars that come out. I was about to say Volkswagen, Anoa. Our membership It's much larger than that that's sitting on the wall, or one of these other little cars that are out there. So I believe that, attention should be given to what the PPP says. You may not want to publish it the same day when the release is issued, But again, that's another technique that is used. Stale news after 1 week or 2 weeks doesn't make sense. So we know all the techniques.
Yeah, but that still isn't censorship, sir.
Well, I read here what is censorship. Censorship is the suppression of speech, public communication, or other information which may be considered objectionable, harmful, inaccurate, politically incorrect, or inconvenient as determined by government, media outlets, authorities, or other groups or institutions. That's what censorship is. Very broad.
So a market vendor can argue censorship, for example, if she sells in the middle of the road, and they remove her and she sees a statement and that statement is ignored. That's the definition?
Well, I think there was a story recently which I don't recall exactly right now, but I recall it before the press conference is over.
Yeah, question?
Mr. Roby, just yesterday, the World Press Freedom Index was released.
The what?
World Press Freedom Index was released.
Yesterday?
Yes.
Okay.
And I'm not sure if you saw it, but it shows Guyana actually rising 5 spaces in terms of freedom of the press. We moved from 62 on index to 57. So I'm not quite sure how that plays into saying that censorship is actually on the increase.
Is that a perception or what?
Well, it would be based on international figures and how they view us.
Okay. Well, we have.
If I could just ask, so this problem exists with PPP, and you're being censored. What now is the party going to do? Is the onus now on you to ensure that you're more visible? Maybe using non-traditional forms of media?
Well, we can only use what is available in Guyana. And there will always be differences of opinion and perceptions in respect to corruption. We have a big argument now going on about that. We have a discussion going on now about censorship in the media, etc. And we live in Guyana, and we know what is happening. And I have been bringing from time to time reports here with data which shows how many press releases and press statements we've issued and where they've been published, So we have that kind of data. So we have to agree to disagree on many of these issues, including this one. On the question of utilizing or using other means to get our views out, well, we try our best. But at the same time, one has to realize there are certain mainstream media houses which are, read by quite a large number of people in Guyana. And I think it is within our legitimate expectations. I didn't want to use the word right. I think it's within our legitimate expectations to expect that those mainstream media houses would utilize the press releases or the statement issued from time to time by the People's Progressive Party. But if we issue 2 statements and we scour some of these newspapers, we see nothing at all. And we see that as a pattern. We must draw certain conclusions. I don't think the PPP should be dismissed as a to-be-tree, entity in this country. We are the alternative to the AP and UAFC. There's no other political party that is the alternative to the AP and UAFC. Yeah.
John Ryan, you said that censorship did not exist under the administration, except in a few cases.
Which I said could not be characterized as press censorship. I did say that those instances could not be characterized, given the criteria of press censorship, as per censorship.
So you would not consider putting state ads from Kaitra News and Sabro as per
No,
censorship?
no, I wouldn't consider that as per censorship. Not at all.
And you would,
And I don't recall, I haven't gone back in the record, but I don't recall, at that time the editor of the editor-in-chief or whoever it was, David DeCaries at the time, describing that as per censorship. That was more or less, as I see it, some kind of economic measure. But then again, the government put the advertisements for bids, tenders, etc., on the government website. But eventually the matter was resolved.
Yeah, I know you wanted to.
I'm a colleague was going to say. So, following up on my colleague Brian,
Yeah.
you said there was no censorship.
Mm.
There were arguments, for example, that PNC press conferences were never given a line on the state-owned television station and in the Chronicle. And you go back, you're going to see that happen.
Mhm.
But they never considered that censorship because they were getting publicity elsewhere.
Not true.
How is it that because the PPP is excluded?
No,
from certain-
no. That's not true because they have been banging away during that era that you're speaking about at not having access to NCN, what the Kaiju News call hen see hen,
Yes.
and they've been banging away at about not enough coverage in the Guyana Chronicle. And that is precisely why when the matter came to Parliament during the budget debate, in order to take retaliatory action, they withheld funds from hen see hen in order to, in a way, punish the NCN for not carrying their news until they eventually, came to government and it changed. But if you were to look at the 6 o'clock news, NCN 6 o'clock news, you don't hear anything about the PPP press statements. So,
So it's a reverse then.
as they say, the more things change, the more they remain the same.
So there was always press censorship of the state media according to your definition?
No, I'm not saying that.
Say if you ain't carried it, then censorship.
I never said we didn't carry it. I said we did carry it.
And still they punish you in Parliament?
They were not getting enough. They wanted more.
And you ain't getting enough. And that is censorship.
Well, we're not getting anything.
Is that true?
We're not getting anything.
Look, you got Miss Romali.
No, well, I don't know if she could answer me. You got Carl Khan to answer me. Or the new man who is now swirling in controversy, who had been appointed at the hen see hen. I don't know what Kaiju News will call him, because one was hen see hen. He will have the answer for that, the new man. As they say, new boom sweep clean. I don't know if any changes will come. But don't forget, he was politically appointed too.
I don't know. How make it a political? He applied for the work. 8 of them applied. Enrico, all of them applied. So then, I don't know. How you just arrive at these conclusions?
Yeah, but Enrico couldn't get the job. Enrico got his own press.
That might be so, but get a political appointment.
A conflict of interest.
Other question on the statement?
I know you talk about something else because we don't get no real this thing. Mr. Rohi, of interest is the court action, and perhaps Mr. Mustafa can help on this. You've gone to court on the local government elections and the general elections. Recently, Justice Diane Sinali felt that she was used because certain procedures weren't followed.
She said that she was used.
Well, what do you call it? She shopped her up. I try to remember the statement.
Yeah, be careful, Careful. I don't think the lady said she was used. I don't know. I didn't
and
see.
she sent it back to the Chief Justice in the long run.
Okay.
Exactly what is going on in the court?
Well, I don't think that question that could be answered by me. You got to ask the clerk of courts. You got to call the judges and ask them.
And Mr. Mustafa, because the people now got 7 days to file a response. Response to what
I think you should
do.
ask the chancellor because he's in charge of the courts. You should ask him. He's a public figure, isn't he?
Mr. Mustafa?
You listen to the GS. The matter we going back for the court on the 6th. The case has been put off for the 6th of May, and we going back.
And what's the state of play with the elections petition?
Well, we're still waiting for it to decide whether it will move from the Chang's ruling to another court, another judge, the Chief Justice. Substantive. Yeah.
President Granger recently took steps to...
Recently what?
President Granger
Ah.
recently took steps to revoke leases that were granted.
Recently took steps to do what?
To revoke leases which were granted to former President Barros, right? What's the party's take on this?
That matter had been handed to Mr. Nandalal, the former Attorney General, who was involved very, deeply in the matter, to advise the party on how to proceed with that.
So the party...
It's basically a legal matter. We're seeking legal advice and interpretation. Well, political legal, I should say, from Mr. Nandalal on how we should proceed before we, pronounce irresponsibly, I should say, on that.
Hannah Duncan, Nightly News. Just a clarification, was the party invited to recent consultations on the AML bill that was submitted to the National Assembly?
I have not been informed to that effect by Ms. Gail Teixeira. Usually when such consultations take place, we would be informed
But if I
as
recall
MPs.
correctly, last week the Attorney General said that invites were sent and...
You mean invited by the Attorney General, Bassett Williams?
Correct.
I haven't seen an official invitation from Mr. Williams to the PPP. Maybe he would have sent it to the office of the leader of the opposition. But you see, whenever I speak here, I speak, strictly on behalf of the PPP. So if you ask if the PPP was invited, I haven't seen an invitation.
Well, as you're talking officially as PPP, what was your objection to the Home Affairs Minister meeting with the prisoners? You were up in arms, you said that should not have happened and all of that.
I never did that. I never did that. If there was ever an encounter between myself and prisoners, it was, let's say, whenever they were celebrating the anniversary of the establishment of the Guyana Prison Service, which is done every year, just like the Prison Service Week, Fire Service Week. The police would have their thing as well. And I would walk around the prison accompanied by the OC and members of the visiting committee, and they would, based on questions that I would ask them, they would then explain to me who is here, who is there, what they're in there for, and things like that. Whenever I visited the women's prison in New Amsterdam, I would do the same thing. But to sit with prisoners, set up a committee, and negotiate with them, that's what I'm talking about. We never did that. We left that to the visiting committee, not necessarily to negotiate with the OC and the senior management of the prison service, because they know all these people, they know have their records, they know, all these different things. So they're in a better position to do that. We as civilians, we might hear or know about the cases, but we don't be there every day to observe certain things. So those people are better equipped than we would be to deal with such matters.
But 17 prisoners never died under your watch. There was never such a big riot in the prison under your watch.
No.
So what's the objection to the negotiation to ensure you don't have...
Because I think it is wrong. That's my opinion. I have a right to my opinion. I have a right to my opinion. I think it was wrong. And He's free to do it. He's the Minister of Home Affairs now. He's the Minister of what is called Public Safety and Security. He's free to do that, but I am free to also express my opinion based on my experience. I've been there for a number of years, almost 2 terms. And I'm entitled to my view. I'm saying that I don't think it was right. If he feels it was right and he should go ahead and do it well, so be it. But I can very well anticipate that there may very well be repercussions.
When you set up a commission in the wake of a mini riot in Burmese prison,
Yeah,
where some people get chopped up,
yeah.
and you never release that report, and I promise you I'll get it to you. But that commission of inquiry
Yeah.
attempted to do exactly what the minister did,
No,
but
sir.
in less time.
No, 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 no. That's a spin you're putting on. Let's get into the non-spin room, as O'Reilly would say on Fox TV channel. No, that's a terrible spin you're putting on that. The Board of Inquiry, which the Prison Act calls for, never sits and negotiate with prisoners. If you understand negotiate, I will give you this, I will give you that. I will take this, and you will take that. That is negotiation. So we've never done that. No Board of Inquiry has ever sat with any group of prisoners to negotiate anything. They simply go, as this COI is doing, they go to the prisons, conduct interviews, most likely with the staff of the Guyana Prison Service, and probably with some prisoners if they choose to do so. But never to sit and negotiate. That's my main focus of attention.
So it's great to start with you. Mr. Romy, since you're on the question of prison, within the last few days we have heard about government's intention of moving some of the prisoners to Camp Street to Mazaruni. Is this something that you have considered on the air watching? How do you feel about, such a...
That's not anything new. There are always prisoners moving backward and forward. They will move prisoners, particularly from the Georgetown prison to the Mazaruni prison, especially those who would have been sentenced, because to send remand prisoners to Mazaruni is a cost, because you have to keep bringing them and carrying them, and that has strong possibilities of them escaping as well. So that's nothing new. That's an ongoing process within and among the prison system, where they would take people. They have to be careful, though, they don't send the special watch prisoners there. So they would take some of the prisoners to Mazaruni, they would send some to Lusignan, some to New Amsterdam, and some to... But there's always that problem with the remand prisoners, some of who are, in there for murders and other serious crimes.
I'm not too afraid with the prison term. What is a special watch prison?
A special watch prisoner is, for example, a prisoner who would have been involved, let's say, in Lusignan or Bartica, one of these massacres, or one who the police would have special concerns about because of his connections with the underworld, criminal underworld.
And one most likely to escape.
And one who would have connections, networking, and so forth. Yeah.
Just a little sidestep from the prison situation. In the past, the PPP would have taken part in the float parade. Is the party this year going to be in the 50th anniversary?
We will be observing the 50th anniversary of our country's independence, because the PPP was inextricably linked to Guyana achieving its independence. So we have decided that we will have some activities to observe this event. When it comes to participating, we've decided we will participate in state functions as well. State functions. No decision has been made by us in respect of the float parade that you're referring to.
Could you list some of the state functions that the party plans to...
No, I don't know. It depends on the invitation that we receive. They will.
You don't receive any?
Well, if we don't receive any, we don't intend to pope any.
Any other questions?
I just wanted to announce that this afternoon at Red House, the U.S. ambassador and one of his colleagues from the embassy will be giving a public lecture on the electoral process in the United States that's currently taking place. And I will be speaking also on behalf of the People's Progressive Party at that activity, which is at 4:30 p.m. Did any of the newspapers carry it over the weekend?
No, we sent it out, but we are sent out a reminder.
You know, if it was centered on the 4th of April, some person might have felt it was, you know, an all fools thing. But it's true. It's happening. It's happening.
Especially
Okay.
Kaichu.
No, you could. Now you got Daniel calling me to ask. Man, tell the people it's not true. I like the one. What a nice April Fool joke.
Oh, okay, okay.
You know,
All right.
they put you in
Before we
jail.
wrap up,
Yeah.
the Red House issue, I remember recently, or a while ago, there were some concerns going on with the government and the Red House. Can you give us an update on that?
Well, the last thing I saw was when Mr. Williams, in a desperate search for something to talk about, you know, because the look at the, he was scraping the barrel for some issue to talk about, you know, dug up the Red House issue. I think he's running out of steam. So he decided to pluck that one from out of thin air and to talk about it. And then I noticed that he is pleading with the board of Red House to, you know, vacate the premises and let all the other presidents have a presence in Red House. Well, we have nothing to say further on the matter. We've spoken ad nauseum on the subject. So,
All right, thank you all.